time for my film reveal video. I just got back from my spring trip a few days ago and I went and picked up the film from the lab today. I have 4 sheets of Kodak Ektar, which is a color negative film. Kind of hard to see here on the light table, but you guys will see it as I see it. And I have 7 sheets of Velvia 50. So we're gonna start with the Ektar 100, see how that looks, and then move to the side film. I'm not really quite sure what to expect going into this because it's kind of a weird trip. There aren't too many compositions I'm really super excited and overly optimistic about. I think many of them are pretty decent, but there's a lot of them where there's some compromises I made when I set them up. So hopefully I didn't mess up too much. All right, so let's start with the color negative film here. So our first sheet, this is the slot canyon that I photographed. And I shot 2 sheets of this scene. I'm a little further back with this one because I can see the whole puddle. I have another one where I'm a little bit closer. Depth of field was a little tricky on this one because I'm using a normal lens and I focused right about here, right about on this plane, and then stopped down f45, so hopefully I got pretty sharp. My exposure looks pretty decent. Sharpness looks good. And the back wall isn't as sharp as I'd like. So, I mean, I think it'll be fine, but I'm really sharp from like here to here. This area back here isn't quite as sharp as I'd like. But I think I have the plane of focus really at the most important part. I do wish I was focused a little further back. But it looks like my exposure is pretty decent on that one. We'll see how that one is once scanned. So here's the same scene, but this time my camera is a little bit closer. Again, here's the same pool here, just for reference. And like same thing, I focused about 1/3 of the way in and stopped down f45. Same general thing. I'm not tack sharp back here, but I am about there through there, which is about where I had it focus. So I think I'll get this canyon wall there reasonably sharp. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Of course, I have some cat hairs underneath there. I'll have to give them a scan to see if that being a little soft back there is an issue. But again, exposure looks pretty decent on this one, so. We'll see. That's one I actually had high hopes for, but I'm a little bummed I couldn't quite get it all in focus. So this is that one cool tree I found. And this part here is in direct sunlight. This up here is in sun. This is catching reflected light, which is why it looks kind of bluish on here, because in reality it's really warm colored. And I never quite had the exact light I was hoping for on this scene. Looks to be quite sharp. It'll be interesting to see how this one scans. Still might be a morning shot as far as when to actually shoot it. A lot of compositional stuff, like the fact that the tree kind of tucks behind there, could be seen as a good or a bad thing. It's just kind of a tricky thing. But I don't know what to expect until I scan it. Might like it, might hate it. Composition seems okay though. And last up, so this is the first photo of the trip. You got this sort of alcove here. Have some reflected light, have some desert varnish, some trees here. I honestly didn't think too much of this scene when I was photographing it, but the composition actually looks to be pretty decent as far as looking at the film. It may have a very different vibe once I actually have it scanned. Seems to be quite sharp. So I'd say that's technically proficient, but we'll see if it actually... My concern on this one is that this part of the photo and this part of the photo wouldn't interact. It look like two separate things. But I do like the fact that there's a path that kind of leads back there. Kind of digging that one, but again, who knows how it'll look when I actually have it, scanned. But interesting. So next up is the slide film. This will be a lot easier to see, both if things turned out, but also if I made a horrible mistake. So we have 7 sheets, and here's the first one. It's pretty cool. This was a pretty cool scene because I like the way that the tree had this big root that had come out, but it kind of got folded back on itself. So it has a kind of this wide base here. It's in reflected light. A little tricky thing is how much foreground versus top. I kind of wish I had a little more foreground in there. I thought I had a little bit more than this, but I mean, this is fine, but I do wish I had a little bit more. Let's check sharpness. That is very sharp. Exactly as it should be. Nice reflected light on the scene. No wind. I like that. Cool cottonwood has character in reflected light, and that works. Again, I wish I had a little more foreground, but there really wasn't much there, and I don't really want to lose any of the top. So that's cool. I like it. Pretty solid shot. Another variation of the same scene. I feel like the first one had a little better light to it, because one of them was a little more, oops, don't want that to be out of the sleeve there. So that one's a little more dull. This one has a little more reflected light to it. So there's also a difference in the way that the leaves are reflecting the light. So you can see right here, these leaves are reflecting the light a little bit more than here. So I'll have to scan them both and see if one stands out over the other. Could be that this exposure is just a hair brighter. But either way, cool with it. But as far as the film itself, I prefer this one here. Good to see. All right, what's up next? My Harry Potter lightning bolt scar rock shot. So this is like this cool fractured rock area, and had these little rocks that are kind of embedded in there. Is in kind of a soft reflected light. I did just a single exposure. This is how it reads, more like this. If anything, I'd say I'm a hair dark, but I wanted to avoid any overexposure there. And as far as sharpness, that is very sharp. Let's check the top area. It's also very sharp. So yeah, so focus is good. I'll have to scan that one to see what I think, but it's just kind of a cool fracture in the rock. May have to lighten it up just a little bit though, but it's cool. All right. So here, oh, what happened here? Something's blocking the bottom here. And I'm not sure what. That will be a mystery. But but something's blocking that. There's a little bit of front movements. I mean, don't get me wrong, I can crop that bottom part out, but something's going on there. Pretty sure I was not, well, I definitely wasn't using a lens hood because I didn't hike with the lens hood. So maybe the bellows were obstructing. That's not an issue with the lens. That's gotta be something camera related. And I do not remember seeing that in the viewfinder. Weird. I can crop it and I'm okay, but you gotta figure out what's going on with that. Interesting scene though, really cool wall of reflected light, cool bush. I didn't know what to think about this kind of area here, though it kind of blends in with that a little bit. But very interesting. Surprises aren't always good. Here's one I was kind of uneasy about the composition when I was setting it up. All the sediments were very rich in color because it had just rained earlier that day. To me, the composition felt a little weird with this kind of falling off like that, but I don't know. I'll have to see what I think about it once I scan it. This was taken with the Arca Swiss. Used a polarizer to enhance the oranges there. Exposure is very good. Focus is very good. I think this is one I'll just get to sit with for a while. Some really fascinating textures to some of the rocks there. I just feel it's a little right heavy over here, but it was a little bit of an experimental composition, to be honest. We'll see. And this was taken not far from there. This one seems to be okay. I mean, the color in those areas is pretty crazy. Let's take with the 600mm lens and trying to find a composition to kind of make sense of all this. I think I'm okay with this one. It was tricky because you have this, There's a huge rock that was right down here I'm just shooting around. And so I'm just trying not to have that in view. I like the gradation and color there. I might be decent with that shot. It's very sharp. So that's good. Very, very sharp. I think I'm good with that shot. I mean, the color is just crazy. It's hard to get around that. That is pretty cool. Not a wow, wow shot, but hey, look what I found kind of shot. And there you go. I'm not quite sure what to think yet. There's a few shots in there that are pretty decent. I think some of them it's a matter of kind of scanning them in and kind of living with them for a little while and kind of figuring out what I think. It was definitely a lot of work, and there's some things I'd probably do a little different if I could go back in time, but that just means I'll go back there next year. But you guys have seen the videos, you guys know how the story happened. I'm just kind of getting back and kind of figuring it out myself. So now I got to scanning these photos, start working on the videos, and I want to thank everyone for watching, and we'll see you around next time. If you enjoyed this ad-free content and want to help me live my dream, a voluntary contribution of just $24 a year helps keep my gas tank full and my film freezer stocked. For more information on how to support me and my work, please visit the donation section of my website at benhorne.com/donate. I also have prints available on my website. You can find a direct link down below in the show notes. Thanks in advance for your support.